Today we're going to be starting on the 4L80 build. We are just taking it all apart, and then we're going to go through, put new clutches in it, see that, get everything all ready to go. I probably won't show the assembly today, but I'm hoping to show taking it all apart, figuring out what the issue is, and then putting the drums and stuff together so that it's ready to assemble. But then we'll have to go wash the case and such. Alright, well, here we go. Building transmissions and filming isn't really conducive of each other just because, you're going to get a little dirty and it's kind of hard to hold the phone. So I'm going to do my best on this. So far, just draining the fluid out of it. She's a little black, obviously. It was, the clutch was slipping, or one of the clutches was slipping, so that's what happens. The fluid gets all burnt. So far, all I've done is I just removed the valve body, kind of looked in there. Doesn't look too crazy. Wasn't slipping for very long. Fluid's more just dirty. It hasn't got a bunch of clutch material, everything, so that's good. So we're gonna tear it all down. Gonna look and see what output shaft we've got. As you know, it's gonna be a 4x4, so depending on which two-wheel drive output shaft it is, I might have to get a 4x4 output shaft for it. Basically the splines are just a different length. The shaft is a little different length, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So here we go. Okay, so now that we got everything all torn out of it, I just kind of want to give you a closer look. Basically just got where your valve body goes in the case. It's all dirty from clutch material, from it slipping. Got all the drums and everything, clutches, shafts all removed. Looks good. I don't see any damage on the case or anything, so that's good, just a little dirty. Obviously, we're going to go through and clean that. Started taking everything apart, and as you might have noticed in the video when I took it apart, I actually didn't realize at the time, but obviously this is supposed to lift out, and it seems to be stuck in there. So from what I can find, it looks like maybe the planetary is damaged, possibly. Because this, you're supposed to be able to take this out, and then this lifts off. But obviously it's stuck. So I'm gonna figure out how to get that apart. All right, I got her apart. Basically, so somebody's definitely been in here. As you can see, these are Teflon seals. And it was just stuck on a seal somehow. So looks like the issue is kind of going here. You can see, and you got your Torrington bearing, and then this is obviously supposed to be a bushing that goes in here. That is, I guess, spun. Not sure if it was the wrong one or what was going on with that. Like I say, this transmission did work for probably put 5,000 kilometers on it or so. Interesting, going through it, we can see that the forward clutches have been toasted. Probably, I'm guessing from like probably lost pressure maybe, something to do with the bushing or everything moving around in there. I'm not entirely certain. But everything else, so like all the planets and everything seem to be pretty good. The direct clutches, there's nothing wrong with those. Bushings, other than this one, they all look, you know, fairly new, pretty good. I'm not seeing any other issues other than this bushing, I guess, came apart somehow and messed everything up. So I'll keep tearing it down and we'll go from there. Okay, we are back. So we were talking about that bushing. Obviously that having wear on it was causing all sorts of issues. And one of those things that it's going to do is the input shaft, you can see right down in there, rides in there and has two seals. And because that bushing was gone, it was allowing the input shaft to kind of move like this, and it wore into the actual forward drum. This is a pretty common problem on 4L80s, as I kind of discovered today, as I had another core that I pulled apart and it had the same issue. So just to give you an idea, this is what a good one's supposed to look like. There's no ridges here. Right, let's see if I can focus. No ridges down in there. This one has the ridges, and if you actually to like run your finger in there, it's sharp. So you can tell that that's obviously not supposed to be there. So I was able to source another forward drum. I got this one from a place in town called Larry's Transmissions. So we're back on getting everything back together. Okay, we got everything that we needed for putting these clutch packs back together. We got the direct and the forward we're going to do here now. I'll kind of go through and show you how we're going to do that. We are going to end up with 6 clutches in our direct and 5 clutches in our forward. And then we'll test, make sure we got clearance. I'll show you how to do all that. This is how we're going to assemble the direct drum. So generally, stock, a direct drum actually only has 6 of these friction plates in it. Sorry, 5 of these friction plates, but we're going to be going with 6, just because we're eliminating the wavy from the direct, which is going to make it a little bit harsher engagement, but that's not what we're after. We're after performance, so having the extra disc in there is going to give us more surface area for clamping. The more surface clamping we've got, the more power it's going to hold. So, basically how it goes, we need to measure and check to make sure we've got the right clearance. So as you can see in the drum here, I've got the piston already installed. It's in there, I've got some petroleum jelly, it's all good to go, we don't have to take that apart again. So we're going to start by putting our steel in. We'll always start with the steel so it goes against the piston. And then we'll do friction, steel. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then this isn't how we're going to assemble it for final, but in order to make it easier to measure, I'm actually going to put these 2 frictions together and put a seal on top of it. That way when we put the pressure plate, this piece that sits on the top and goes against the snap ring, on there, we can measure in between, go on, the top steel and the pressure plate there. So that's where we're going to measure our clearance. Right in, if you can kind of see right in there basically. So we'll put our snap ring on. Try not to mess up my gloves. Click her in, make sure it's in all the way around. And then as you can see here, we've got clearance. So because we have 6 discs in there, we're going to aim for about 60 thou clearance. So we've got our going to start off with, so this is 13 thou. I want to go for 60 thou, so I'm going to start with a 22. So we'll just put it right in between. I guess maybe I'll do it on this side so you can see easier. Put right in between there. So obviously we've got 22 thou in there, so still lots of movement. I'm going to put a 20 in. So now we've got 42 thou total in there. Still got some movement. So let's throw an 18 in. And there we go. So 18 fits in there. Honestly, that's pretty snug. Not really any movement there at all. So now that means that we've got 60 thou clearance. So this one is good to go. We are going to have to take it all apart again just so that we can soak the clutches. But other than that, we know what this drum needs. We'll leave everything kind of together so that way when we do final assembly, this drum's all good to go. Throw her in the case. One thing that I just wanted to mention to make sure that everyone understands is when I had them in here like this, you can see that there was 2 clutches together, but that was just for measuring. When we put it together finally, we're going to flip that around, so we've got steel, clutch, all the way up to 6, and then it's going to stop with this clutch on top, but then you put the pressure plate on. So the pressure plate is what kind of sandwiches it all together. And then when the clutch applies, obviously it squeezes together like this, and then that's how you get your forward momentum. Next one we're going to do is the forward drum. One thing that I should notice, or you will notice in here, is we've got the drum here, got the piston in. Same deal. I cleaned it all up already, so it's all ready to go. There is normally a cage of springs in here, and this is what's going to return the piston when there's no fluid in there. But I take that out just because it's easier to measure for the actual clutches while we're doing it this way. So same deal, gonna start. This one's only got 5 clutches in it. It also has a wavy, but what I like to do is I'll put the thicker steels in it. Just better for heat, better for performance. And that's gonna take up the extra area we got. So GM spec on these I believe is 30 to 80 thou. Again, I like to aim for about 50 because there's 5 clutches in there, 10 thou per clutch. But we'll see what we come up with. So we got 1 clutch. She'll go in there. 2 clutches. 3 clutches. 4 clutches. 5th. Again, we're not going to leave it this way. Just for assembly and measuring. And I'll put the pressure plate on. Snap ring on. Screwdriver, there it is. Just make sure that it's all engaged. Now, as you can see, this one has a different piece. This one actually goes into the direct clutch. So it's a little bit harder to get down in here to measure, but we've got some clearance in there right now. We will put in our 22 on our 18, which gives us 40. Put right in there. Rotate there so you can see right in there. And then we've got another 20. Still got a little bit of play in there. And then we've got a 13 here. And that takes up all of the play. So it looks like we're at about 73 thou on this one. I'm not sure why we're getting a little bit extra there. One thing I wanted to show is we've got these steels here. Now they're interchangeable. Technically these are for the direct and those are for the forward, but they can be interchanged, so we are going to use that to our advantage. The only difference between them, as you can see here, is these ones measure 78 thou thick, and these ones measure, well, they're supposed to measure 90, but they seem to be measuring a little bit under. I'm wondering if maybe that's why we've got a little bit too much clearance in our forward. So I'm going to go through all of these steels. I've got a pile of 90s here and just measure them all and see if we've got maybe some that are a little bit thicker. And then if we can find, if we can make up 4 thou per steel, that's going to give us an extra 20 thou, which would put us perfect on the clearance we want. So try and get that lip seal in. So you just kind of be gentle with it. Oh, there it goes. So, popped in. Let's see what our measurements are with this one. One clutch. Oh, you know what we didn't do is put our extra steel on here, so we've got something to measure against. So I'm hoping maybe with this piston we'll have a little bit less clearance. That other piston was the one that came with the drum when I got the new drum, so I don't know, it shouldn't matter, but maybe it does. Not in all the way. Feel like that much less, but let's see. So we've got 20 and 18, so that's 38. Slide that in between there. Here's my 22, which gives us 60. So it's definitely got 60. Wonder if we can get this 13 in there. It feels like yeah, so I think it's 73. So it's measuring the same with that piston for whatever reason. Okay, so I know we left off on the last one that we were at, I think 73 thou on the forward, which I don't really like. I've looked up some clearance, specs, and a lot of guys say that you can do, well actually Jake's I found where you could say 30 to 80 thou, but that seems a little loose on the forward to me. Most guys say you can run it a little tighter. So what we did instead is we ended up with two 78 thou steels on the bottom, and then a couple 90s and a couple 78s mixed in there, and that gives us 43 thou. I feel more comfortable with 43 thou on the forward, so that's what we're